The St. Louis Cardinals are one of the hottest teams in baseball over the last couple of weeks. The Phillies have been one of the best, if not the best, team in baseball all year. Is this Cardinals team for real, or are they about to get hit with a dose of reality this weekend in Philadelphia? We'll try to answer those questions in this special Locked on Cardinals, Locked on Phillies crossover.
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals and Phillies fans. I'm JD Hafron, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. I'm your host for Locked on Cardinals, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio and the podcast at LO_Cardinals, representing the city of brotherly love, my man Connor Thomas from Locked on Phillies, which you can follow him on Twitter X at Connor Thomas 975 and LO_Phillies. And you can, of course, hear him on 97.5 The Fanatic in Philadelphia. We want to thank those of you who make Locked on Cardinals and Locked on Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you stop by on YouTube and check us both out. Like, subscribe, comment, interact with us, and hit that notification button so you know when the new episodes are posted. Today's episode being brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right. First and foremost, hello, Connor. Good to see you again, my friend. How you been?
You too, JD. I got no complaints, man. You've seen how the Phillies been playing ball. I got no issues with this. Well, I've got some issues with this team right now, and we'll talk about it, but no big problems in Philadelphia right now when it comes to the baseball team.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's perfect, but both of our teams come into this series feeling pretty darn good about themselves, and it should be a pretty good weekend of baseball in Philly. Let's go with how we got to where we are right now as we wrap up the first couple months of the season. The Phillies seemingly been riding high since these two teams met back in the 2022 in a wild card game. And where it looked like the Cardinals were going to seal up game one. Me and you were texting. We felt like, okay, Cardinals are going to wrap it up. This is going to be interesting. And then the Phillies explode in the ninth against the closer, Ryan Helsley, and they've never really looked back. They go on to the World Series that year, lose to the Astros. Last year, they go to the NLCS, lose to the Diamondbacks, go on to lose to the Rangers in the World Series. But you've got back-to-back seasons where, you know, they've been right there. Like, they're right there. And they continue to add new players each year, try to get that combination right so they can bring home their first ring since 2008. So I guess my first question when talking about this year's Phillies team is, do you think they're as good or better than the previous years when they're fully healthy? Obviously, with Trey Turner out, a big piece of the puzzle missing right now with the hamstring injury. But how scary is this team compared to what we've seen over the past couple of years?
I'll tell you what, the funny thing is I don't think they're that much more talented. You largely kept the same core together. You added Trey Turner last offseason, so you already had him for a year, and it wasn't his best year. He had a rough start, the standing ovation heard around the world, all of that stuff, but they didn't really do too much this offseason. What the big benefit is this is now the third straight year that this core has been playing together where you haven't really made major changes. And the one major change you made over the past two seasons was adding a guy who is at his best an all MLB shortstop in Trey Turner. This offseason was just filling out the depth, making sure that you have what you want in the bullpen. And I think what you're seeing are the fruits of the labors of the past 3 or 4 years from Dave Dombrowski in this front office. So more talented, not necessarily. Playing better for sure. And I think it's just a comfortability with the guys around them. It's also a renewed sense of, well, I guess a business attitude after losing to the Diamondbacks. All credit to Arizona, but the Phillies were the better team in the NLCS. It didn't turn out that way. And this team has had a chip on their shoulder since they showed up to spring training. So it's that focus. It's the familiarity. All of that has led into what's been one of the best starts in franchise history for this Philadelphia Phillies team.
As far as the Cardinals side of things, they come in with, I guess, some expectations into the year. Obviously, a hugely disappointing season. The previous year, they finished in last place. They got 71 and 91, just ugly stuff. But people thought that they'd be NL Central division contenders again this year, mostly because most people don't think the NL Central is all that good. But a lot of people thought that they also whiffed on a chance to really make an impact by signing someone better to go along with the signing of Sonny Gray from Minnesota to add to that rotation. Offensively, this team came out really, really slow, like extremely slow, talking Chicago White Sox, Oakland A's type of slow with the offense. Like, it was really, really bad. Mother's Day, Ollie gets thrown out of a game in Milwaukee, and since then, they've taken off. Like, both sides of the equation with the offense and the pitching finally, come together. And now they're starting to see the results over the last 15 days. They're second in Major League Baseball in batting average at 282. They're tied for fifth in home runs, third in OPS, third in slugging, third in on-base percentage. So the offense that we thought we were going to see from the get-go coming out of spring training has finally decided to show up. Are they somebody we can rely on all season? I think a lot of people are skeptical about that. Will this pitching staff hold up for the rest of the season? I think people are very skeptical about that when you see the age of some of the guys that are in the station. But it took them about a month and a half to finally get everything to come together at once. And now we're starting to see some wins, and they've gained a lot of ground. I don't know if you saw this, Connor, but they're now second in the NL Central. Granted, they're only at the 500 mark. Okay, let's not get crazy.
Right.
They're running away with things by any means, but they got to that step, which was something that had eluded them throughout the season. It seemed like they'd get close to 500 and then they fall right back down. Well, they finally hit that mark, and lo and behold, now we got to go to Philadelphia and play the team with the best record in baseball. So things are going to be interesting this weekend. I want to talk about new surprises and disappointments that have happened for the Phillies and the Cardinals so far this season. Each team makes a few adjustments each year, and then some people don't live up to expectations. Other people surpass them. So we're going to talk about our biggest surprises with you guys next on this special Locked On Cardinals, Locked On Phillies crossover. First, let's hear from our friends over at FanDuel.
Yeah, and this is a great deal for the time of year right now. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL. And FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. I know we're talking about basketball playoffs, hockey playoffs. Guess what? Baseball season, this is the time when you start to figure out what teams are. It's a great time for you to make the smart bets. So right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet on FanDuel. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props. You could bet some futures. Do you think St. Louis is going to win the Central? Do you think the Phillies might win the NL? I mean, you can look at all of these options and you could place your wager, but they're going to give you $150 if you hit that first $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count, or every home run, strikeout, anything count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume because of all the shouting. Something me and Connor will not be doing to you today. We'll talk like civilized gentlemen. We make the switch to Locked On Sports today, and you should too. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every single day to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7, or you can find us on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast and the Phillies' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Cardinals or Phillies. And thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. You can leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter, X. Anytime you want that feedback, always welcome and encouraged. I'm JD Hafron from Locked On Cardinals, Connor Thomas from Locked On Phillies. Talking about this big series this weekend in Philadelphia. Let's talk about the biggest surprises. We'll start with the positives, Connor. What are some of the biggest surprises for the Phillies so far in 2024 that has allowed them to reach the top of the mountain right now with the best record in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, there's three guys that come to mind. We're going to start with a pitcher that you're going to see in this series. Ranger Suarez has been outstanding for the Philadelphia Phillies. He's in the Cy Young conversation. He was undefeated up until his last start and kind of fell apart in Colorado. That happens. You're not gonna win every single start, but he's been dominant. His changeup is one of the best pitches in baseball right now, and to see that alongside Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, that puts you into this stratosphere of great rotations in baseball. So he's been really good. On the offensive side of the ball, Alec Bohm has been outstanding. There was a point a month and a half into the season where we started to talk about, are we really witnessing an MVP year from this guy? And he was a number 3 overall pick, so the pedigree's there, but you haven't seen him be this level of hitter at the major league level yet. He's been a huge RBI guy, a little bit cold recently. So him picking it back up would be nice, but we know this lineup is deep. He's been awesome at the plate. And the one other guy, too, with Trey Turner. I know you brought up Trey Turner on the injured list right now, still coming back from a left hamstring injury. Edmundo Sosa, who you guys are familiar with, I know, out there at St. Louis. He has been unbelievable in his minor role with the team that's become a bigger one since Trey Turner went down. We're starting to have conversations in Philadelphia about how do you keep him in the lineup once Trey Turner returns to action. He's red hot right now, so it's great to see what Sosa has done after waiting for his turn and taking advantage of it. Couldn't be happier for him. Couldn't be happier for all these guys. So there's a lot of bright spots, but those are the 3 biggest surprises.
Yeah, the Edmundo Sosa deal. I mean, talk about a deal that has worked out well for both sides, where you got the depth for the Phillies with Sosa, who can play the middle infield, obviously shortstop. And then we get Jojo Romero coming back to St. Louis, and people were like, who the hell is this guy when they got him? And, because he was in the minor leagues with the Phillies at the time. He wasn't even up on the major league roster, and now he's become one of the main 3 guys in the bullpen, a situation we call the trio. We call him the Trinity nice. Over here at Locked On Cardinals, where he's been one of those guys that's been able to lock things down over that 7th, 8th, and 9th inning.
Now, does he still do the crush the Red Bull on his arm before he goes into the game? Have you seen him do that?
I haven't seen him do that, but I can tell you what, he's extremely animated out there, yes, which I always appreciate, because I feel like some of these guys, specifically with the Cardinals, they can be a little boring, a little dull out there. I mean, like Paul Goldschmidt's not the most exciting guy in the world. Good player, but, and I like it when some of these guys show some fire. So I think JoJo fits in nicely, especially in that, relief pitcher role, especially at the back of the bullpen. Like he's been fantastic. So a win-win for both sides in that one. As far as surprises for the Cardinals so far this year, I'm going to go kind of in the same direction with you, where I'm going to go a guy that used to be a Philly, Kyle Gibson. Kyle Gibson, sadly, will not throw in this series, but he's been a lot better than many people thought he'd be. So far, he's 4-2. He's got a 3.60 ERA. He's got 6 quality starts, which is something the Cardinals really targeted this offseason when looking for guys they wanted to bring into this rotation. I know Cardinals fans remember, and I'm sure Phillies fans do remember, the 4 home run game where the Cardinals went back to back off of Gibson in Philly. I don't think they realized how dependable this guy was going to be, despite winning 15 games with the Baltimore Orioles last year. Outside of his starts against the Marlins, where we think he was tipping pitches, and then kind of had a rough start against the Red Sox, the dude's been outstanding and has easily been their best starting pitcher, not named Sonny Gray this season. Another guy that you got to keep your eye on and be aware of is our rising young shortstop, Mason Wynn. He's been something that took a lot of people by surprise this year, because he came up last year, rookie, looked overwhelmed at the major league level, and it had a lot of people wondering whether or not that bat was going to play up here in the big leagues. But the glove and arm, no problems there. Everybody liked that. The arm is talked about a lot, one of the best arms in baseball, but people were concerned about his bat, whether it would be good enough, and he's been outstanding. I mean, elite, to be honest with you, Connor. He's batting 308, which is 10th in all of Major League Baseball. He's 7th in the NL. He's shown the ability to be clutch, which is something that the Cardinals, I feel like, lack sometimes, where they just can't seem to come up with that 2-out hit. He's been the guy that's been able to pull it off. Very good speeds, got 7 stolen bases, currently riding an 18-game hitting streak heading into this weekend. Just been a special talent for sure, and one that the Cardinals are embracing, because they're starting to use his image and plaster him all over the place as this young superstar for the Cardinals. And then I do want to give a shout out to Ivan Herrera, the catcher, also a rookie with the Cardinals. The Wilson Contreras injury, I don't know if you heard, but got his arm broken by JD Martinez on a swing. Had his arm out there a little too far as a catcher, and he got clipped. Broke his arm, and the Cardinals are like, oh gosh, we just lost, at the time, who was our best hitter, our starting catcher. What do we do now? All we got is rookies behind him. And Ivan Herrera has been great with the pitching staff. Pedro Pajes, who is the backup, also a rookie, has filled in nicely as more of a defensive guy. And Ivan Herrera has been able to pick up the pace that we thought they were going to fall off with Wilson Contreras getting hurt. Herrera's been able to back cleanup for this team recently. They've moved Arenado down to number 5, and it's been the rookie Herrera.
Yeah, catchers don't do that either. Like JT Realmuto does that sometimes, and he's amazing to have a guy in that spot at that position. It's awesome.
Yeah, and to be a rookie pulling it off has been a very pleasant surprise for the Cardinals. Now, on the other side of the coin, because, we can't just be sunshine and rainbows here. Got to talk about some of the negatives. So we'll be going over some of the things that have disappointed us about our teams. We'll cover that next on this Locked On Cardinals, Locked On Phillies crossover. Connor, I don't know about you, but do you remember like the first day of school or maybe the first day at your new job when you started at the Fanatic? You know how it is. You want to come in wearing, the brand new outfit.
Yeah, got to get the fit off.
You want to come in, you want to look good. You look good. And when you look good, you feel good when you walk into the room or through those doors for the first time, whether it's a job or whatever it is that you're just starting. You can get instant confidence boost, satisfaction like that still with our friends at Stitch Fix. And get this, Stitch Fix is going to give you a stylist to help you out. Now, I'm sure, Connor, you're a well-dressed guy. I don't think I take care of myself all that great when it comes to the wardrobe. So
you look great too.
We need help sometimes. As men, we need help sometimes. You don't want the wife having to pick out the outfit or the girlfriend picking it out all the time. So Stitch Fix will give you your own stylist to help you out. They'll take into consideration your style, your size, your budget, and they'll do the shopping for you. And you can order things when you want and how you want, and no subscription is required. With summer being here now, you want to upgrade the closet, you can do that and do it the smart and efficient way with Stitch Fix. And if you don't love something, you just send it back. Shipping, returns, exchanges, they're always free. So if you're ready to upgrade to styles that make you feel as good as you look, get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB. and get $20 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $20 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB must redeem within 7 days of signing up. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's now also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day, along with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows, which cover every league. So you can find Locked On Sports Today right now. It's available on the free Fire TV channels app. Once again, Connor Thomas from Locked On Phillies, JD Hafron from Locked On Cardinals. We're doing our special Locked On crossover for the weekend series between the second place Cardinals and the first place Phillies. It sounds better that way when I say it. Second place Cardinals. I like that. That.
Sir.
Even though it just happened. And again, we're only at the 500 mark still. Just got a better ring to it.
No doubt. And we got the Brewers after you guys. So take it easy on us and we'll take care of Milwaukee coming up. All right.
Okay. We can do ourselves each other a solid here. That would be nice. Let's talk about some of the disappointing things, because not everything works out the way management plans that it should. Who are Philly fans disappointed in so far this year? It's probably kind of tough considering where you guys are in the standings and how well things are going. But, last year you mentioned Trey Turner was the guy that everybody was like, this guy's terrible. What is this? And then things turned around for him. Who are they kind of upset with so far this year?
Yeah, the list is minimal because his team's just been so darn good. There's 2 guys, and they're both going to play big roles in this series, actually. We'll start with Taijuan Walker, who's starting Game 3. He'll be throwing on Sunday Night Baseball, big stage, and he's had major issues. Like, he got hit around his last couple times out. There's talk about, is there something we need to change in the rotation? So he very well could be pitching for his job. The Phils go to London in a little bit to take on the Mets, and that'll give them a lot of days off so they can rework the rotation. There's a chance that this is Taijuan Walker's last start to prove that he's better than what he's been. And he's got a splitter that everyone in baseball knows about because it is a lockdown pitch that has really made his career, and he just hasn't found it yet this year. So he's had trouble, and with this rotation as good as it has been, it's been magnified a little bit because everyone else looks so good, but he does have things to figure out. Offensively, it's Nick Castellanos. He has been really, really rough. And I'm sure you'll remember him from his time in division and what he did in Cincinnati. But he's had moments this year. He's had chances to break out. He spent a lot of the year below the Mendoza line. He's just barely above it now. He hasn't really hit for power. And he just had a game in the final game of the series against the Giants that the Phillies just wrapped up on Wednesday, where he went 3 for 5 and was a triple shy of the cycle. So is there belief that he could be coming out of it? Well, we've seen him have good games at points this year, and then he goes right back to striking out 4 times. But there's belief because his exit velocity has been up and he's been barreling the baseball better than he has at any point this year. He may be breaking out to this point. I got to say that Nick Castellanos has been a disappointment for the Phillies so far.
How things have been, like, as far as the bullpen, because the Cardinals have been able to kind of solidify a 7, 8, 9 type of rotation. Do you guys have it set up that way? Do you have a guy that you consider your number one closer? Or are you still kind of filling things out there?
Yeah, it's very weird. Rob Thompson does not like to set bullpen. As a guy who pitched out of the bullpen in college myself, I love to find roles because I think it makes relievers feel a lot more comfortable. But any given night, it could be Jose Alvarado closing the game, Jeff Hoffman closing the game, or Ryan Kerkering, who was a huge story in baseball last year, came up, made it all the way from low A to the major league roster to pitching in the NLCS in a single year. So there have been guys that have had rough outings, but largely the talent level in this bullpen has just covered up any issues. You've got so many guys that are regularly good that if someone has an off night, it hasn't been noticed. But the 2 big name guys that have shared the closing responsibility have been Jose Alvarado and Jeff Hoffman, and they've both been really darn good again this year after great 2023 seasons.
The rise of Jeff Hoffman has been a shocker to me. Like,
story.
considering where he was. I mean, we know how life in Colorado can be very, very rough. Gets out of there, but then wasn't quite sure what he was going to do. Like, he was in the division with the Reds for a little bit, and he's kind of the butt of jokes at certain times, and now he's shining with the Phillies.
We'll take it.
When people see him, when the Cardinals see him come out, and they're gonna be like, "What? That dude's good? Look at these numbers." It might surprise some Cardinals fans a little bit. On our side of things, I would say we got a few guys that are disappointed. One, I don't want to pick on him too much because he's young, but Jordan Walker, who was one of the elite talents in the minor leagues, one of the top prospects in baseball at one time. Some people thought he was the number 1 prospect for a bit there. Is not even on the team right now. Been a bit of a letdown, considering he was your up-and-coming slugger. He was supposed to be a bat that you could put, hopefully, in the middle of the order at some point. He was your starting right fielder on opening day, and he's now a starting right fielder for AAA Memphis. He's been down there for about a month trying to work on launch angles again, trying to get the ball in the air because he's a massive man. He's 6'6", he's 250 pounds, and he still does not have a home run at any level of baseball this year. Didn't hit one at the major leagues, hasn't hit one yet at AAA, is starting to hit more doubles down there, but still a letdown considering the ability of what we know he's capable of, but still a young guy. So we're not trying to kick him all the way down the steps just yet. We want him to get things right. And lucky enough for the Cardinals, they've been able to put some outfield depth together to kind of fill that hole for now. But being that he's so young, he's not going to be on the top of my disappointment list. The top of the list is going to go to 2 names everybody's familiar with, and that's Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, the so-called pillars of this team. The guys that the Cardinals thought that they could count in, day out, have not lived up to expectations, not even the slightest. Goldie, I will admit, has been a lot better recently. So he's not quite where he was a couple of weeks ago. Batting .289, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs over the last 15 days. But overall numbers, you're seeing .224, 7 home runs, 22 RBIs. And to think that him hitting .289 only got him to .224 on the season shows you how low he was. He was bad. As you mentioned earlier with Castellanos, Mendoza line, he was well under there for quite some time there. And then there's Nolan Arenado, who's hitting .257, which isn't awful, but the power has just vanished from Nolan Arenado's game. I don't know if it's a health thing. He's never said that it's a back problem that's bothering him or a shoulder, whatever it may be. Is not using that as an excuse, is just saying his swing is just off. He's like, I can't figure it out. He's like, I'm working on it. I'm trying to get it right. I can't do it. Pitchers are starting to, it took a decade, but they're figuring out don't throw it low and inside to Nolan Arenado. Throw everything away, and he can't hit it over the wall. He has really no power to center field, no opposite field power really, and anything he's going to hit that way, he's just going to kind of flare it out there. So pitchers have finally learned that. So the home runs have vanished, 25 RBIs. The other side that's a little bit scary about what's going on with Arenado, because he's making a lot of money and he's still under contract for a few more years. The defense has fallen off considerably. He's now a -6 in defensive runs saved here in 2024. Now, this is a guy who has won 10 Gold Gloves. He's a 6-time Platinum Glove Award winner, and he's at -6 at the hot corner right now, which is not something.
That's insane.
Yeah, like you look at it and you're like, and it's like routine stuff. And the Cardinals have been in a weird way recently as far as the defense. They just kick like routine plays, and it's been odd. They had a 12-game streak of making an error until Tuesday, and then they finally didn't make an error, and then they made another one on Wednesday. So we're starting a new one back up for you. But yeah, Arenado over there at third. It's weird that maybe the offensive side of things are now starting to affect what he's doing on the defensive side of things. And it's also led to more people thinking that, okay, maybe there is an injury here that's going on, because it's weird that both pieces of the puzzle with Nolan Arenado are faltering as bad as they can. And then outfield injuries. That's the other thing that's been a huge problem with the Cardinals so far this year. Lars Nootbaar is a little banged up right now. They've never had Tommy Edman yet this year, who was supposed to be your starting center fielder. Jordan Walker with his issues. Dylan Carlson was hurt and still doesn't look good at the plate. And if Nootbaar is going to be banged up and may not be available this weekend, we haven't gotten official word on that, but he was dealing with some issues with the side. He had a little hammy thing going on there. So we'll see what happens there. The one guy that's actually stepped up for them in the outfield has been a guy by the name of Michael Ciani, who most people have never even heard of. He's really no bat whatsoever. If you just don't let him bunt, probably not going to hurt you offensively, but defensively he's been fantastic in center field, and with this pitching staff, they certainly needed it. So let's talk about the pitching matchups real quick. You hinted at a couple of them. Friday night, Miles Mikolas against Aaron Nola. Nola signs that big contract to stay in Philadelphia and has been living up to everything they wanted him to be, hasn't he?
Well, somewhat. Yeah, I mean, listen, he's been the Aaron Nola he's always been. He's got a very high ceiling. He's got some inconsistencies that will always be there. And that's kind of the nature of most pitchers in baseball. No one's going to be their best self every start. So he could give you 8 innings of shutout ball one day. He could give you 6 innings of 4 earns the next day. But the talent level and the ceiling has been what's so intriguing about Nola. And he's actually been pretty good against the Cardinals in his career and has had some success. So the expectation is that you get a good version of Aaron Nola tonight.
Miles Mikolas going up against him. Miles Mikolas has 1 bad inning every single game, and we don't know when it's going to be. Could be in the first, could be the fourth, could be in the fifth. We don't know. You just never know. I call it the Russian roulette, but it's like Mikolas roulette, because you don't know where the bullet's going to be and everything's going to blow up on you. But outside of that 1 inning, he's like amazing. It's so bizarre that there's 1 inning that everything just goes wrong, whether it's soft contact or he gives up 2 bombs. We don't know what it's going to be. So if he can avoid the massive inning, if he's going to give up a bad inning, if it's going to be 2 or 3 runs, I think the Cardinals will live with that. But it's when it really gets out of control and he gives up 4 or 5, and then it's big trouble because you're playing from behind. So that's something to keep an eye on for Friday night. On Saturday, you mentioned Ranger Suarez, how amazing he's been, 9-1 on the year. Cardinals ace Sonny Gray. Last couple of outings, he's been dominant, and then he leaves early for certain reasons. Like last time, it was because of the rain out situation that was going on with the Cubs. It was delayed, so he couldn't get his lower body loose, and they didn't want to push things. But that should be a really fun matchup as far as if you're into pitching matchups. That should be a good one on Saturday. And then you mentioned you got Sunday Night Baseball. You get the nationally televised game on ESPN. It's Taijuan Walker against Lance Lynn. Have you seen Lance Lynn recently, Connor? Have you seen what good a shape he's in?
Yeah, we actually faced him in the first series we played against you guys this year, and he's looking better. Listen, I remember a bigger Lance Lynn. Yeah, but that'll be a fun one too.
Yeah, he's mean looking. He's got the gray going on, and he's as feisty as ever. And certainly has deserved better in the games when he has pitched well. For some reason, the Cardinals won't hit. When he pitches bad, it just doesn't work out. So the record's a little bit misleading, but I think he's been better than they think, or at least thought that he was going to be this year. He hasn't been able to go long in games. They were hoping he'd be more like Kyle Gibson with 6 innings just about every time he goes out there, but he's been able to get you 5. So that being at the end of the week, hopefully maybe our bullpens won't be worn out and we'll be able to, cover what innings he leaves out there on the table. But should be a fun matchup this weekend. What are you seeing? How do you think things are going to go between those?
Sonny Gray is a great pitcher, but Ranger Suarez lost his last start out, and that dude's going to be motivated. So if you're going to win this series, you're going to have to get games 1 and 3. I think the Phils look really good in that Saturday game, and Taijuan Walker's been really bad. So I think who wins this series comes down to who wins game 1. And it's another really interesting pitching matchup with Nola and Michaelis. I think the Phillies will win this series only because they've lost 2 straight series. And prior to losing 2 straight, they had won 15 straight. So the sample size is in the Phils' favor, but the offense for the Cardinals has really picked up. And I mean, I'm very interested to see what this series is like with another hot team they're facing.
Yeah. And with 2 righties going for the Phillies, keep an eye on Nolan Gorman, who is a guy that was also struggling mightily at the beginning of the year. And things have picked up in a major way. Hitting well above 300 over the last couple of weeks, is now in double-digit home runs out of nowhere. People are like, wait, what? How did that happen? Yeah, he snuck up on some people. So definitely a bat to keep your eye on in this series as well. As always, thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. If you haven't already, do us a solid. Give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. For Connor, it's LO_Phillies and at Connor Thomas 975. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing on YouTube to help our channels grow. It's very, very important that you do those things. That way we can get our reach out to other Cardinals and Phillies fans who may not have heard about us just yet. All right. Enjoy the series, everyone. Connor, I appreciate you as always, buddy.
Of course, man. It's always fun.
All right. Thanks for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.